So there is this number that honestly just terrified me when I first saw it in the research stack.
Oh, I think I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the 47% one. 47%, which is nearly half of all Americans, say they absolutely cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense.
Right. It is a completely staggering statistic. And I think the immediate assumption most people make when they hear that is they think, oh, well, that is obviously a low-income problem, a poverty issue.
Exactly.
But the data actually shows something completely different. This isn't just about how much you make. This financial fragility, it extends well into people earning six-figure incomes.
That is the part that really gets me. You can be making good money, like money that your parents would have considered rich.
Yeah.
And you're still just one bad transmission or one unexpected ER visit away from total disaster.
Yeah.
It really challenges that idea of what it means to be poor versus, just being broke.
It does. And that distinction is crucial for our deep dive today. Poverty is a systemic, often crushing issue regarding a lack of resources. But being broke, especially when you have a decent income, is usually a lack of a system.
Right.
It is purely behavioral. It's about where the resources are going, not just how many are coming in.
It's like the difference between not having water at all and having a bucket that's just full of holes.
Perfect analogy.
And hey, before we get too deep, welcome everyone. You're on the Smart Capital School of Financial Literacy channel.
We are so glad you are here with us.
Because today we are tackling this head on. We're breaking down the 5 specific habits that keep people from building wealth.
And just to be clear, right out of the gate, these aren't complicated investment strategies or, tips on how to day trade crypto.
Definitely not.
These are the behavioral anchors holding everyday people back. And more importantly, we're going to talk about the concrete systems to fix them.
Because the difference between staying broke and actually getting rich often comes down to just one word, which is awareness.
Exactly.
Awareness.
So let's unpack this. The first habit is something I think we have all been guilty of at some point. It's that I don't want to look syndrome.
Right. The technical term behavioral economists use is the ostrich effect.
The ostrich effect. I love that.
It is this fascinating, albeit totally destructive tendency we have to just bury our heads in the sand to avoid dealing with unpleasant financial news.
Mm-hmm.
The material we're looking at shared this incredible anecdote about a room full of 80 college students. The speaker asked the room, how many of you actually track your expenses?
And what was the actual result there?
One hand went up. Just 1 out of 80 students.
Wow. That is wild. But also, honestly, I get it. It's scary to look. It feels like if you don't look at the monster isn't there.
It is scary. In fact, there is behavioral data suggesting that 1 in 3 people would rather clean their bathroom. And we are talking scrubbing the toilet, rubber gloves, the whole nasty business.
Oh, man.
They'd rather do that than simply log in and check their savings account balance. That is hilarious, but also deeply sad. We would literally rather deal with actual physical filth than financial filth.
Precisely. Because the toilet is just dirty, right? But the bank account, that feels like judgment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But here's why that really matters. The findings show that people who don't check their accounts, they spend significantly more chaotically, especially on paydays.
It's that out of sight, out of mind mentality.
Exactly. If you don't look at the number, you can pretend the limit doesn't exist. You end up buying way more non-essentials because you simply haven't confronted the reality of your burn rate.
It's basically like riding in a taxi and refusing to look at the meter. You think, if you don't see the price go up, the ride is somehow free. But the meter is always running.
The meter is always running.
So the fix here isn't setting up some complex spreadsheet right away, is it? It's just looking.
Just looking. Radical visibility. That is the first step to taking control. Whether you use an app, a notebook, or just the Notes app on your phone, you have to force yourself to face the numbers constantly.
Because you can't manage what you don't measure.
Right. Just the act of tracking makes you spend less, even if you don't officially set a budget.
Okay, so once we pull our heads out of the sand and actually look, what is the next thing biting us? Because the research highlights something that I think has quietly become a massive drain for literally everyone.
Not subscriptions. Silent leak.
Yes, subscriptions.
This is where perception versus reality is just totally out of whack.
Oh, this stat blew my mind. So they asked the average person, how much do you think you spend on subscriptions?
Yeah.
Streaming, music, the gym, random apps.
And people usually guess around $86 a month.
Right. Because that feels manageable. That's the feeling number.
But the reality,
when they actually audited the bank statements, the average is often over $219 a month.
That is a massive gap. You are talking about over $130 a month disappearing that people aren't even mentally accounting for.
That's crazy.
That is over $1,500 a year just vanishing into the digital ether.
It happens because everything is $5 here, $10 there.
Right.
It doesn't feel like a car payment, so we just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved this humorous analogy from the material, I think it was attributed to Trevor Noah, where he compared canceling a subscription to trying to get to Mordor.
It is the perfect analogy for the modern digital economy because think about signing up.
One click.
One click, instant, zero friction, Face ID, and you are done. But canceling.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Suddenly you have to navigate 5 different screens, asking if you're sure, they offer you discounts, they plead with you to stay, or you have to call a number during weird hours. It literally feels like you need to find a dragon and fly to Mordor just to stop paying $12 a month.
It really does. Companies design it that way on purpose. They count on that friction to keep you paying because they know you'll just give up and eat the cost.
So true.
So what is the strategy here? How do we fight the dragon?
You have to perform a ruthless audit, print out your bank statement from the last 3 months, physically print it out.
Paper and pen.
Yes. Go through it line by line with a highlighter. And the rule is simple. If you cannot say with 100% certainty that you need it, cancel it.
Ruthless is the key word there.
Yeah.
You have to be aggressive. If you haven't watched a specific streaming service in 3 months, kill it. You can always sign up again later if you really miss it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're tracking our money. We have cut the vampire subscriptions. Now let's move beyond logic and talk about the squishy stuff. The feelings.
The emotional side of money.
Right. Because money management isn't just math. If it were just math, we'd all be rich.
It is highly emotional. The research brings up a really important point about emotional spending. Now, there is a clinical diagnosis for compulsive shopping disorder, which affects about 5% of the population.
Right.
But the reality is, everyone engages in emotional spending to some degree.
I love this specific example from the material. The host talked about buying vanilla ice cream when he's feeling sad or lonely.
Vanilla, of all the flavors.
Hey, he defended it. He said it's the best flavor. But the flavor wasn't the point. It was the mechanism.
Right.
It cost maybe $7.
Yeah.
It's not breaking the bank on its own, but it represents this whole mechanism of treating yourself to fix a bad week.
And the kicker is the duration of the satisfaction. The joy of that treat lasts maybe 15 minutes. It's a quick dopamine hit, but the money is gone forever.
Yeah.
And when you compound that behavior constantly buying things to fix feelings, it becomes a massive financial drain. You aren't buying the product, you are trying to buy a mood shift.
And this connects heavily to emotional intelligence, or EQ, doesn't it?
It does. There is a direct link between EQ and spending. Higher emotional awareness tends to lead to fewer impulsive purchases.
Because you realize what's actually happening in your head.
Exactly. If you can identify, hey, I am feeling sad right now, you can choose a different coping mechanism than spending money. You don't have to buy the ice cream to fix the sadness. You can call a friend or go for a walk.
Speaking of friends, that is the other massive side of emotional spending. Social pressure.
Oh, the cost of friendship is very real. The average person spends about $250 a month on entertainment with friends.
That's over $3,000 a year.
And the fear of missing out, FOMO, drives so much of this. The data says 44% of Gen Z and millennials have skipped important events because they literally couldn't afford them.
Or, and this is the dangerous part, they go anyway and just pile on debt.
It's a painful choice for people. Do I overspend and go into debt, or do I stay home and feel isolated?
So how do we handle this without losing our friends or our savings?
It starts with introducing what we call the pause. Before you buy anything or say yes to a social invite, run a quick mental checklist.
Okay, what's on the checklist?
1, do I actually need this? 2, does this bring me closer to my financial goals? And 3, does this align with my values?
Simple but effective.
If the answer is no, you stop. And with friends, you use the honesty policy. You advocate for being honest about your budget. Real friends will totally understand if you say, hey, that trip or that dinner is just too expensive for me right now.
That is tough advice to follow in the moment, but so freeing once you do it.
It sets a healthy boundary.
All right, we are going to shift gears in a second to the heavy hitters. The things that actually break your budget way more than ice cream ever could. But first, thank you for joining us. Let us know in the comments how you like this format of video analysis and what topics you'd like us to cover in future videos.
We really do read that feedback.
Okay, let's get back to it. We've talked about the small leaks subscriptions, emotional treating, but the material makes a really bold claim here. You cannot latte your way to wealth if your big fixed costs are broken.
Yes, the latte myth. We obsess over the $5 coffee, we feel guilty about it, but then we sign papers for a car or a house that consumes 50 or 60% of our income.
It makes no sense.
Those are the big anchors, housing and transportation. If those are broken, skipping coffee will not save you.
Let's talk about cars first, because looking at the numbers, car payments have gotten absolutely out of control.
It is alarming. The average car payment is now hovering around $750 a month.
Wow.
And nearly 19% of people are paying over $1,000 a month for a car.
$1,000 a month for depreciating asset. That is insane.
And the loan terms are stretching out too. The average is over 68 months now. People are staying in debt cycles for 5, 6, 7 years.
Just to drive a nice car.
Right. So we need a specific rule to fix this.
The 24-10 rule.
Exactly. Detail it for us.
All right, so first, a 20% down payment. If you can't save 20%, you can't afford the car.
Yep.
Second, finance it for a maximum of 4 years. If you need a 7-year loan to make the monthly payment fit, you're buying too much car.
You're just masking the true cost with time.
And the big one, 10%. Your total transportation costs, so that's the loan payment, insurance, gas, everything, should not exceed 10% of your gross monthly income.
Which is a very tight number. Let's be honest. That doesn't get you a new luxury SUV. It probably gets you a reliable used sedan.
But driving a car you can actually afford is how you stop being broke.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of expensive anchors, let's talk about housing reality in the context of 2026.
Right. In 2026, the average home costs between $410,000 to $450,000.
Which is a massive hurdle.
It is. And the danger is becoming house poor. The conservative rule to follow here is the 28% rule.
Meaning your mortgage, interest, taxes, and insurance should not exceed 28% of your gross income.
Exactly. So to afford a $400,000 home responsibly under this rule, you need a salary of roughly $112,000 a year.
But the real trap here is the banks, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The banks will approve you for way more than the safe amount. They might approve you for 45% of your income.
Because they want to issue the loan.
Right. But if you take that deal, you are suffocating your ability to save. The best way to get rich is often just buying less house or less car than the bank says you can afford.
Buying freedom instead of square footage. I love that.
It works.
Now let's look at the actual mechanism of saving. Because 92% of people fail their financial goals. Not because they lack ambition, but because they lack a plan.
They use a flawed equation. Most people do. Income minus bills minus spending equals savings. They just try to save whatever is left over.
Which is usually nothing.
Exactly. The correct wealth equation flips that. Income minus savings equals spending. You pay yourself first.
And automation is the secret weapon here.
The set it and forget it method. Data shows people save twice as much, an average of $167 versus $80 when the saving is automated.
You can't spend money you never see hit your checking account. It removes the decision fatigue entirely.
It really does.
All right, before we wrap up, we have to talk about free money. Because leaving this on the table is an absolute tragedy.
The 401k match.
Yes. Explain here.
So, employer matching is when you put in, say, 5% of your salary into your retirement account, and your employer puts in another 5%. That is an instant, guaranteed 100% return on your investment.
There is nowhere else you can get a guaranteed 100% return.
Nowhere. Yet 1 in 4 people do not contribute enough to get the full match.
So they are just losing money. How much are we talking about?
Losing an average of $1,336 a year in matches.
Which sounds like a little, but compound interest changes the game.
Oh, completely. Over a 40-year career, that loss can result in losing over $405,000.
Nearly $500,000 gone because you didn't click a few buttons on your HR portal.
It's painful to think about.
So the action step is log into your work portal this week. It takes 10 minutes, but it is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And if you don't have a 401k, say you're international or a freelancer, look for tax-advantaged accounts. In the U.S. context, the Roth IRA is fantastic because the money grows tax-free. 0 taxes when you withdraw in retirement.
Exactly. Find a vehicle that shelters your money.
Always.
Well, this brings us to the summary. Wealth isn't about finding a magic investment. It is about mastering these boring basics.
Awareness, controlling subscriptions, checking emotional spending, managing big fixed costs, and automating your savings.
It is the boring stuff that actually builds wealth. Which brings us to our vanilla test.
Ah, yes.
We mentioned the vanilla ice cream story earlier, so if you are still listening or watching, drop the word vanilla in the comments to show you are part of the dedicated group who will actually fix their finances.
It proves you made it to the end and you're serious.
Exactly. And I'll leave you all with one final thought to mull over. What if the ultimate luxury isn't actually what you can buy, but the mental peace of knowing you don't have to buy anything to feel secure?
That is a powerful shift in perspective.
It really is. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel, like it, and see you in the next retelling.